and roll, Chicago. Rock and roll, Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best you're out around.
Hey, this is Paul Martin.
And Ray the Roadie, bringing you episode 5 of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
We've got a good one this week, Ray, don't you think?
Oh, yes, we do.
And before we get started, I want to thank Paul Braun for setting this whole thing up with us and getting me in touch with Scott May, who finally gets us in touch with Jim Peterik.
Yes, he did. That was we had a good time meeting with Jim, talking about a lot of great stories from the Ides of March days and the Survivor days up until now with the Pride Alliance and his world stage.
Yes, and Cornerstones of Rock. Don't forget that as well.
Cornerstones of Rock, too, yeah.
Let's get started with it, and he's got some great stories. So stay tuned, and let's give it a listen.
Here we go.
Hey, this is Paul Martin.
And Ray the Roadie.
For the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
This week we're meeting with a member of the Ides of March and Survivor, the legendary Jim Peterik. How you doing, Jim?
You even said my name right. I am so happy. So many times it's Peterik. I go, no, it's Peterik.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, thank you. It's great to be on your show and celebrating Chicago rock. I mean, what a great area ever since the 50s and 60s till now. Fertile period for rock bands and rock musicians.
Before we get started, I got to tell you that our weekly podcast last week, your name was brought up in the podcast because we interviewed M&R Rush, which is also my band, and your name was brought up in that podcast because of Reckless Love.
You're right. I was very impressed with the result of that. Frank Pappalardo, who I've known for about 30 years. He's been the Ides live sound engineer, but also I did so much recording with him through the years of the David Carl Band and Kathy Richardson.
Right.
And we did this demo with a group called Baby Blue, and there's a song called Reckless Love that just killed. And Frank, every year he'd bring up, man, I got to find someone to record that song. Finally said, M&R Rush is going to record it, and he played it for me, and I go, you nailed it.
Well, thank you.
It's really strong.
Thank you.
Now, who sang lead on that?
John McFarland.
The original guy, right?
We were all original.
Everyone.
A whole band, yes.
Sounds like the Ides of March.
Yeah, and that's an accomplishment in itself, I tell you, anymore.
You got that right.
Not many bands like that out there anymore.
I know. And for one reason or another, either egos or they're dying, which is not a good thing.
Well, no.
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
But I see you haven't had a comeback. You've been busy the whole time, it seems like, since day one.
That's
since 1964.
That's really true. I've never... you're right. I never had to come back because they never left.
Right, exactly.
But, it's what keeps me going. It really does, And if it's not the Ides of March, it's which is now celebrating 55 years as a band this year.
That's amazing.
Great.
And a brand new album coming out in August called Play On, which now this is another one. This is my World Stage album.
Right.
This came out in late April, just about a week ago, 26th of April.
Oh, nice.
And that's why we're putting a little distance between this release and the Ides of March release in August. They're both finished. Obviously this one's finished because it's all
packaged.
I'll talk about this real quick, if you don't mind.
No,
go right.
So, my first World Stage album was back in 2001. I left Survivor in 96. And what am I going to do now? Well, I decided to put together a kind of a concept called Jim Peterik and World Stage, where I would do concerts like superstar lineups every year, at least once. And every year those have sold out quicker than the year before. And I put out an album in 01 with many great artists that I've toured with or written with through the years. People like Dennis DeYoung, Kevin Cronin, Don Barnes at 38 Special. And I got a call from my record label, Frontiers, in Italy, maybe about 6 months ago. Maestro, it's time to do another World Stage album. It's been almost 20 years. What are you doing? And I said, Serafino, it's so hard to get these albums together with people on their touring schedules and all over the world. And I said, but okay. And I started making calls. And every musician to the man said yes, count us in. So we've got Don Barnes of 38 Special, Mike Reno of Loverboy, Dennis DeYoung, which is just an amazing thing.
Sure.
Kevin Chalfant of The Storm, Toby Hitchcock, who's a partner of mine in Pride of Lions,
sure.
Right? Kevin Cronin.
I remember doing a show with you with Pride of Lions.
That's right. Kevin Cronin of REO, Danny Vaughn of Taiketo, a great band. Lars Sussund of Work of Art, a great Swedish band that's just very popular over there and fantastic. Kelly Kagi of Night Ranger, Jason Sheff of Chicago, who sang all those great Chicago hits when Pete Cetera left the band.
Right.
Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, the Nelsons.
Right.
And finally, a great lost track that was never released by Jimmy Jamison that I wrote and produced for him.
Oh.
And that was really an unbelievable moment because Jimmy wanted to do a country record back in 2008 because he had country roots, being from Memphis and everything.
Okay.
And I said, sure, I'll help you make that record. So I started writing for him. We recorded about 8 songs, and they were all really good. He had that twang, and it was very authentic sounding. But just then, Frontiers calls me and said, Maestro, we want you to record a rock album for Jimmy Jamison. And so we made Crossroads Moment, which came out in 2009 and just did phenomenally well, and I'm very proud of that. But long story short, a few months ago, I was going through that old country stuff, and there was a song called "Love You All Over the World" that just stood out to me. And I called the heirs, Jimmy's family, and
Right.
it was just kind of, I could have done it without their blessing, but I wanted their blessing to take that track, take Jimmy's vocal and isolate it, and create a new track around it, more in the rock style that he was famous for.
Right.
And that's what we did. And
Wow.
right upstairs in World State Studios with Larry Millis, and my son was on drums, and Colin Peterik, and the bass player, I believe, was, I don't want to misspoke, but we put together the A-list, Mike
Right.
Aquino on guitar.
Mike is
just
phenomenal.
amazing. And I think
Yeah.
it was Bill Siner on bass. But anyway, it was spooky and bittersweet and very eerie to put that fader up on Jimmy's voice and hear it isolated. It was like he was in the room, and we all had a tear in our eye.
I bet it was very emotional.
It was very emotional. We were basically performing with Jimmy after the fact. And it's one of the standout tracks, I think. We put it as the last track because you really can't follow something like that.
Gonna love you all over the world, wherever you are. I'll lay down my heart. Gonna love you all over the world. This journey's begun with a ticket for one boy and girl. Gonna love you all over.
Yeah, it was a sad day, I know, when I heard about Jimmy's passing.
Yes, it was. He was loved by all. I mean, he was one of the nicest guys.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but being one of the most signature vocalists that I've ever... As soon as you hear his voice, you know it's Jimmy.
Right.
Yep.
I find that the best singers are all like that. I work with Dennis DeYoung now, and we have a song on World Stage called Proof of Heaven, which we wrote together. As soon as you hear that voice, you know who it is.
Right.
And,
sure.
what's neat about Dennis now is that he's really appreciating his heritage with Styx. When he was making his solo albums, he was trying to do everything to avoid the Styx sound, and now he's embracing it.
Right.
And with Proof of Heaven, it could have been 40 years ago on one of his early Styx albums.
That's what I thought when I heard it. I was listening to it. Same thing. It said that could easily have been a Styx song.
Exactly. So it's great that he's back to that. What he does so well, the very theatrical harmony.
I was going to say very theatrical. He's always been very theatrical.
Very, and
yes.
that's part of the
and majestic and just
You can say pompous.
He wouldn't say bold.
Yeah, well, no, he knows that, and it's a big part of that stick sound.
Oh, sure it is.
Definitely is.
Now, speaking of Jimmy Jameson, what about Dave Bickler? Have you done anything with Dave?
I played with him 2 years ago in January. He invited him to do World Stage with me, the live thing, at North Central College. And he just was putting out a new album, so he did a brand new song that was really great. And then he sang, of course, Poor Man's Son and Caught in the Game and Eye of the Tiger.
Right.
And he sounded terrific. We stayed in touch.
Right.
He's a great guy, and his album is out now. And if you haven't heard it, it's really good.
Listen. Yeah. Not to change the subject, but tell me a little bit about Cornerstones of Rock.
Well, Cornerstones of Rock is really what your show is all about, Chicago rock.
Right.
But it's the 60s. It's limited to the 60s. I got in just under the wire with 1970 with Vehicle. But they cut me slack. But, we've been doing these shows. It started with a WTTW special called Cornerstones of Rock, American Garage. And it was Ides of March, Buckingham's New County, Six Crying Shame, Shadows of Night, Elliott Haynes, Jeremiah. We included the McCoys. They weren't from Chicago, but very much that sound.
Right.
And the Standells, same reason. And Garage Rock.
Right.
And this went on to be the most... the biggest fundraiser they ever had on TTW up to that point.
Right.
And one night when they premiered it, they raised $100,000 just like that.
Wow.
And from there, we started doing concerts and replays, of course, of TTW. And every show we sell the DVD, which is so powerful. Oh, Gary Loiza, American Breed.
Right.
He passed very soon after that.
Right.
We're very lucky to...
Yeah, I've seen the WTTW special, and Gary was phenomenal on it.
He looked better than anybody.
Yeah, he did.
And he sounded great.
Yeah.
So glad he was there.
Yeah.
It was his lasting tribute.
Yeah, another shocker.
Yeah, it was just terrible. What a talent. Great engineer as well as a musician. Did a lot of the Six records.
A lot of Six stuff, Fisher, and did Six live for quite a while.
Oh,
too.
long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
But, we do live shows with Cornerstones, and, of course, there's a few people absent, like Gary. And, Skip Haynes passed away since then. Elliott Haynes, Jeremiah. But Teddy Elliott is still rocking it.
Still out there.
And we sell out like that. And we must have played the Arcada now 7 times. Mm-hmm. Each time it's a total sellout. And we did the Genesee. We've done a lot of venues. We've done Milwaukee Fest. That was a big deal.
Right.
So very popular. And we have another one coming up in October at the Arcada.
I saw that.
And we just keep rocking. And everybody's great. I mean, there's no egos. We check them at the door. It's just all for one for all. We all feel so thankful that we're still making music, still doing it.
Well, they're nice venues. It's just a bigger garage.
Yeah. Well said. That's about right.
I mean, everybody gets their start there. I'm sure this has been asked many times. Did you write Eye of the Tiger before the movie, or was it something you had written, something you just wrote?
Absolutely for the movie.
Okay.
Started with a phone call from Sylvester Stallone. I thought someone was putting me on. Hey, yo, Jim, give me a call. That's a nice answering machine you got. And I thought, yeah, right. This is probably Sal, our road manager, with Survivor. But I did call him back. He said, I like your band Survivor. Song Poor Man's Son on Premonition. Tony Scotti, the label president, played it for me. I said, that's the sound I want, And he said, I want something with a pulse, something for the kids, and something that's going to outlast all of us. Is there a problem with that? I said, Stallone, Sly, he call me Sly, okay, Sly. I said, I've been waiting all my life for an opportunity like this. Mm-hmm. I always say good luck is where opportunity meets preparation, and we were prepared. And they sent us the rough cut of the movie, and me and Frankie Sullivan watched it, and we just got inspired. And I just started a digga. And then I saw the punches thrown, and I go, bop, 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 bop. bum, 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 bum.
So you worked off of a video.
We worked off of the rough cut of the movie.
Right. Oh, I see.
Yeah, and of course, the Eye of the Tiger, that phrase was in the movie where Mickey, the trainer's going, Rocky, you losing the Eye of the Tiger.
Right.
Bum, 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 there it is.
Right.
So it was just one of those things that caught lightning in a bottle. And guess what? It probably will outlive us all.
Well, I said to my my 18-year-old son a couple of days ago, I says, so I'm going to interview Jim Peterik, and he kind of looked at me, and I says, he wrote Eye of the Tiger, and he was like, oh, that song's iconic. And for an 18-year-old to know that. Yeah.
Well said.
Yes.
No, it's always finding a new home, whether it's in a movie, a commercial, a TV show. We just got Tiger Woods won the champion.
For sure.
And you see him in the dressing room whistling Eye of the Tiger,
Right.
and then the band comes in, and then he says, he's back.
Yeah.
It's just like vehicle. It keeps finding new homes.
Right.
Acura is using vehicle now to sell cars,
Right.
Sell vehicles.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
It's I call it the gift that keeps giving.
Now, in Burning Heart, same way?
Not to the extent of obviously of Eye of the Tiger,
Right.
But yeah, that's a good license too.
Off of a video of
Rocky IV, the movie.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they both had a music video. Eye of the Tiger had a video of us walking down the mean streets of San Francisco, right in front of the pornos,
Right.
in the neon lights, and it was. I'm embarrassed by that video because I look as big as a refrigerator in it. Not exactly Rockstar Slim, but and then we're on stage and there's the water and that part I kind of like. But it was a popular video. It's had like 1 billion hits. I mean, literally a billion hits. And then the music video for Burning Heart was even better because it intercuts movie scenes with live scenes of Survivor playing.
Right.
And
right.
that is a great video. I love that video. Videos are not what they used to be. I mean, in the days of MTV,
Right.
that was a big deal.
Big deal.
And it could make or break a record. I mean, look at Michael Jackson. But we had some very powerful videos. One was I Can't Hold Back, where the biggest thing I remember is that really cute girl walking up the ladder up to the top shelf of the bookcase,
Right.
and it's her name is Lisa Anne Marie, and she's just a wonderful gal. We used her recently for a Mark Shearer Jim Peterik cut where she came back and did a cameo in a strip club. It was really, really cute. But my favorite video is probably I Can't Hold Back, like I said, because we each took on a different persona. I was the slick, lawyer, business guy with the suit and the hair slicked back. Frankie was the punk, and Stephen Ellis dressed up like a nun. And Mark Gervais was a bum, and we're all on the L train, going from from Chicago to O'Hare. It's that line. It was kind of like a risky business thing. Of course, J-Mo was the handsome guy when the girls are all after him. He had all the luck. But it's a great video. Search Is Over had a great video.
Yeah.
And Man Against the World, which was not a big hit, should have been, had a great video. But I still, if you ever, any of your audience ever wants to check in, JimPeterik.com has all the Survivor videos.
Right.
All you do is press a button. The IdesOfMarch.com has a lot of great footage from the Ides of March.
Right.
And, of course, my Facebook is the official Jim Peterik page. So all things Peterik and Ides of March, and it's a lot of fun keeping in touch with the fans.
Definitely, most definitely. So what's Pride of Lions? What's going on with that? Is that still...
Fearless did really well. It's 2016. That was our most recent album. But Jimmy has
Toby,
thank you. Has a track on World Stage, which is really a great one. But I need a rest time between Pride of Lions albums to revamp my inspirations. I did 2 albums back to back, starting in August of last year. First, I cut the World Stage album in 2 months, and then in November started the Ides of March album, 55th year anniversary album called Play On. which is another guest extravaganza. We got Mark Farner to come in and play and sing from Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
We've got Kathy Richardson of the Starship, who I mentored when she was like 19, and now she's touring the world with Starship.
Right.
We've got Joe Bonamassa to come in and play lead guitar. Huge superstar blues man.
Yeah.
Bo Bice, American Idol finalist, who sang Vehicle to the Top in 2005.
Oh, that's right.
He had the long hair, and
right.
He sang the shit out of it. You know, I can say that on a
Sure.
podcast. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a lot of stars. Mindy Abair, the sax player, phenomenal, hot blonde yell who happens to be a great sax player.
Right,
David Pack does a duet with me on a thing called "Song About Mary," which is one of the great songs. I know I'm leaving out some people.
Were these all new songs or
all new? All new, Paul. Yeah, we are doing a double vinyl as well as a CD.
Oh,
Back
nice.
to the double album.
Nice.
And the first three sides are the contents of the 14-song CD, but then the fourth side is all vintage vinyl. First time like Vehicle has been available on vinyl since back in the day.
Right.
You wouldn't listen. L.A. Goodbye, One Woman Man, 8 vintage songs, and
that's perfect for the Ides of March.
Isn't it? Right. It's the whole history, and
right.
You open this. I love vinyl because there's all this real estate to read lyrics and look at pictures, and just like the old days.
I miss that now. We're downloading and I loved reading about the band, about who was in the band, and what the band was all about.
The history, I miss that too.
Yeah.
And you need to have reading glasses just to read the credits on a CD.
That's true.
If you can read
If you can see them, if you can see them.
So we're doing the CD. It's going to be a digipack, 6-panel, and then inside there'll be a booklet for the Ides. But then there'll be the vinyl. So we're really excited about it. We're going to do a music video for a song called Blue Storm Rising that we did with Kathy, and an album, a song called Swagger that we did with Mark Farner, and then a song about Mary. So it's going to be a lot of video content as well.
Excellent. Gotta say, you've had a lot of great music. I've loved the Ides of March my whole life.
Thank you.
But L.A. Goodbye, to me, that is the best song.
Yeah,
I
man.
love that song.
Well, thank you. I find that the true Ides fans, everybody loves Vehicle, but I can tell the real Ides fans when they mention L.A. Goodbye.
I love that song.
Us too.
Well, my wavelength gets a little longer every time I wave goodbye. Sentimental breakdown, I break down in line. Where I'm not supposed to lie, my head always seemed my softest pillow. And as I poured my plate, something inside my brain needs to wave L.A. goodbye.
Wow, you should hear the vinyl on that.
Yeah.
It's stereo. That was one of the first things we did in stereo. And it's just sounds so warm. The harmonies are
Right, the harmonies are incredible.
Yeah,
Yes, they are.
we recorded it, but we could never capture that magic when we were all 19 years old, or 20, whatever.
Right.
But tell me about writing with the 38 Special.
Well, that's, I always call myself the 6th member of 38 Special.
Yeah.
Or 7th, depending on how many singers they got with them that year. But they're great guys. And I've had some of my big successes outside of Survivor and Ides of March with 38.
Right.
I feel like I am a member of the band. Because when you go see them live, practically half the set is stuff that I co-wrote with them.
Sure.
And Don Barnes, Jeff Carlisi, of course, he's no longer with the band, but that was the team that wrote the biggest hits. Mm-hmm. They came in, first of all, they recorded Rockin' Into the Night.
Rockin' Into the Night is great.
Yeah, which was supposed to be on the first Survivor album. Long story.
Yeah.
But anyway, and a lot of people thought, man, we should have had that song out by Survivor, but it was not to be. But they had a huge hit with it, which I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them. Having written it, of course, I'd be happy for them.
Sure.
But that led to them actually flying in for their next record and writing Face to Face with me.
Oh, okay.
I was living in LaGrange at the time, and I had this really nice kitchen with a vaulted ceiling and a kitchen counter. That's where I wrote some of my biggest hits. That's where I set up the VCR, and Frankie Sullivan and I wrote Eye of the Tiger.
At the kitchen counter?
At the kitchen counter in LaGrange, with the butcher block look, but that's where we sat down with Don Barnes was here, Jeff Carlisi was here, and we just looked at each other like deer in the headlights because we didn't even know each other. Co-writing is like a blind date. Until you get to know them, it's very awkward.
Sure. Exactly.
And Jeff Carlisi goes, hey, there's a picture of the Ides of March. Why do you have a picture of the Ides of March? I love that band. I said, I'm the third from the left. He goes, no shit. It was really, so that kind of broke the ice.
Right.
And then Karen comes in with a plate of nachos and, all good. And I said, well, has anybody got any titles? Because a lot of times I'll write from a title. And Don Barnes goes, he was kind of shy at the time. Well, I got a title. I said, well, let's hear it. Hold on loosely. Hell yeah. But don't let go. I immediately wrote that down. Mm-hmm. And Carlisi goes, well, I got this riff. It's kind of like the Cars. And he goes, I said, holy shit. And we just went from there, man. First time together, we like I have said before, we caught lightning in a bottle, and it went to number one. And then they came back for the next record, and that's when we wrote Caught Up in You, Wild-Eyed Southern Boys, Fantasy Girl, Chain Lightning. Mm-hmm. Just had an amazing string of songs.
Right.
It's like great you get hot and it just rolls. It just starts rolling.
And now we're writing a new album. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'd love to bring it up to the present. Winds of Change, which is the title song of Jim Peterik and World Stage. That's a song that Don Barnes and I and Danny Chauncey wrote about a year ago. And it was going to be on their album, but Don says, why don't you put it on this album? I said, yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
But Winds of Change is a very important song for this album. I think it sets the tone, very positive, very upbeat. It was inspired by remember the Parkland shootings in Florida. It was a tragic slaughter. And what really touched me were the young students that stood up so eloquently talking about gun control and violence in the schools. And I said, these are the winds of change. These kids are our future. And if the leaders don't listen to these 17-year-olds, they're not going to get reelected.
Right.
Exactly.
And so when I talk about the ship capsizing, that's the old guard. And the winds of change are the new kids coming in and trying to make some sense of this world.
Right. That's what we're leaving behind.
Yep, that's right.
Of course, Sammy Hagar.
Oh, my God. Another one of my heroes. I wish I had his money.
Or his tequila.
Well, that's what made his money. But, yeah, he's a hero of mine. And
I loved him back in Montrose days, and Montrose to me was a forerunner of Van Halen.
Oh yeah,
I mean Ronnie Montrose on guitar was the
prototype,
right?
Yeah.
To Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Sammy was a great singer ever since those days. He always was great, and I got hooked up with him through John Kolodner. John Kolodner is this famous A&R person with Atlantic Records. He had that long Hasidic beard, and he was in the Pump video as just in a bride's dress for the Aerosmith. He signed Aerosmith to Geffen. Anyway, he signed Survivor too. So he has been really important to me. He was always hooking me up with 38 Special, Henry Paul, The Outlaws, and 38 Special, and that was an amazing. He's done us amazing. He did me amazing amount of good, and he hooked me up with Sammy Hagar, and I flew out there to write with him. And he was living in still is living in Mill Valley near San Francisco, and picked me up in his Ferrari, red Ferrari, and he was the cool guy.
That sounds like Sammy.
Yeah, and his hair was flying, and we were just living the dream, man. And he stopped, and he went to this great coffee shop, and we ground up some coffee just to get some fuel. And all the kids are going, "Hey, Sammy! Hey, Sammy!" And I go, "This guy's got tiger by the tail," no pun intended. So we went down in his basement, and which was beautiful. He had a little recording studio down there, and he says, "Well, there's this new movie coming out called Heavy Metal, and it's really an animation. It's kind of a erotic sci-fi thing, and they're looking for a title cut." I said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And we called it Heavy Metal, and our chemistry between us was so good. And I started saying lines. I said, for me, the most exciting part of a rock concert is the anticipation. Sitting there in the auditorium or theater or whatever, and you're waiting for your heroes to enter, and the tension is building. I want to capture that excitement. He said, "Okay, I'm with you." So we started headbangers in leather, sparks flying in the dead of the night. It all comes together when you shoot out the lights, 50,000 watts of power, and it's hitting overload. The beast is ready to devour all the metal it can hold. And we kept changing, trading lines. And then one way ticket to midnight, call it Heavy Metal. We're like, holy shit. And then we start jamming, and this riff came about. Only Sammy,
Right.
could have, written that riff. Well, I helped, but it was his inspiration.
Yeah, it's perfect riff for him.
It really is. Yeah.
Headbangers in leather, sparks flying in the dead of the night. It all comes together when they shoot out the lights.
So that was magic, and every time he comes to town, usually he puts me on stage with him. We did Northerly Island, and I actually opened for him. This was 2 years ago, and I just played an acoustic guitar and did all my hits acoustically. One guitar and 11,000 people,
Right.
and I pulled it off. He says, "Hey, Peter, you did pretty good." And I said, "Well, thanks." So he said, "Will you come up on stage with me and let's do it for real, and let's do Heavy Metal, the metal version."
Right.
So that was his band called The Circle, and that's with Jason Bonham on drums and Michael Anthony on bass, and what a band, and we rocked Heavy Metal and just brought down the house. So we're still in touch, and he's one of my very good friends.
You mentioned Dennis DeYoung, and now are you doing an entire album with Dennis or no?
Yes, I'm helping him make his album. I don't call myself producer. I just helping Dennis make his record.
I see.
And we've written about 8 songs together, and he's written another 4 or 5 on his own. And I'm playing a lot of guitar on this record, and bass, which is really cool. He really likes my guitar playing, and I love to play, So even on songs I didn't write with him, a lot of times I'm playing guitar, which is a real thrill, to be that guy. But it's going to be a great album, and I don't know the release date or the label. That's all being worked on right now.
And on the back, it'll just say Jim Peterik Helper.
That's about it. Hamburger helper. Jim Peterik. No, I don't know what it's going to say, but the main thing is we're back together. We've been friends forever, and now finally working together.
Right. Yeah, Dennis was an inspiration for me and for Amon Rush. I know back we used to do a ton of shows with them.
Yes.
When they were
TW4,
and then they became Styx.
Trade Winds. Yeah, Trade Winds. TW4, then Styx.
Right.
Yeah. They're a great band, and they still are. Now there's 2 factions, of course.
Right.
They both have their strengths.
Right.
Right.
And Dennis very much wanted to get back with them. It was actually I won't say begging, but basically saying, guys, let's do one more track lap around this track.
Right.
He really wanted it to happen, but it's not going to happen.
Well, they said that the beginning of the end of that band was Mr. Roboto. And now
they're playing the
singing
song.
it. Now they're using
I know. It's very ironic. I mean, Tommy's great. I actually... He actually did a great version of one of my songs that I mentioned earlier today, ever since the world began. I didn't mention that, but that was the second song I wrote for Rocky III that Frankie and I wrote. Anyway, he did a great job on that, and his guitar playing is great.
Tommy, I remember Tommy from MS Funk.
Sure. Did you know Mike Borch of the Ides of March did a long stint with MS Funk?
Oh, did he?
After Danny Keller left.
Oh, is that right?
Mike was with him for about a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. See, it all comes around.
All comes around.
Definitely comes around, yep. Alrighty, well...
5 minutes? You know what? My wife just got back from Scotland, and I better go see her. She just came home. She was with her girlfriends and touring Scotland and had a blast.
Excellent.
So we got to catch up. But
we'll look for the new World Stage album and
new Ides of March
coming out
in August.
In August,
and the Ides of March. This may predate. I don't know when this is airing, but we're at the Acorn Theater on May 4th. But it's going to be our 2-set format, where the first set is unplugged, and second set is what I call Full Metal Jacket.
Great little theater.
All the hits. It's going to be a great show. But we're enjoying that format. We did that same format at City Winery in Chicago, and all I can say is we've been together for 55 years, and it gets more fun all the time.
That's excellent.
The original 4 guys, and Scott May has been with us for 30 years on B3.
Sure.
And then what we call the Buzzard Brass section, Steve Eisen, Grammy-winning horn player, Tim Bales, and Henry Salgado on trombone. But it's a family, and M&R Rush is like that.
Right,
it's family.
Sure it is.
And you got to be thankful for that.
Absolutely.
All righty, Jim. I want to thank you for your time, for meeting with us.
That was our pleasure.
It was
Me,
our
myself,
pleasure.
and I may be schizophrenic, but at least I have each other.
Well, good luck with all your future endeavors, and I'm sure there'll be many of them.
Well, thank you, guys. I really enjoyed it, and good luck with your podcast. And Chicago, keep rocking.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks,
Brody, man.
Wow, Jim Peterik is a class act, isn't he, Ray?
Yes, he sure is. Boy, those are some great stories.
He's had some great stories, and I hope we all enjoyed this episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Yeah, and hopefully make sure you guys go check out the Ides of March. They'll be playing a bunch of places throughout the Chicagoland area this summer.
Yes, and keep an eye out for the World Stage CD, which was just released a little over a week ago. And keep an eye out for the Ides of March CD, which will come out in August, I believe he said.
It's going to be a CD and a vinyl.
CD and vinyl. That's awesome.
All original music. That should be really interesting.
And I couldn't think of a better band to come out on vinyl than Ides of March.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah. So next week, we'll be bringing you Cadillac Groove.
Another horn band.
Another horn band. We are just like getting inundated with horn bands, but that's okay.
That's good.
That's good. That's good. Everybody likes to rock.
They put on a great show. If you haven't had a chance to go out and see them, make sure you do. But we'll bring you some info and a great podcast with them next week. So be sure and stick around. And don't forget to share and like our podcast and our podcast page.
And subscribe, too.
That's right. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the show.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Chicago.